This is what it takes. This is what it takes. If you're America, if you are seeing all these things, you'll be having hope. No matter where the war is, you will still be at home, enjoying like nothing happened, doing a normal routine, a normal job, everything like nothing happened. This, God bless America. God bless President Donald Trump. Share this video, like, comment, follow me without notice. Please subscribe on my YouTube as Maris West USA 2. Thank you very much as you do this. There's 2 at the front. Thank you very much as you do this.
This war the US and Israel is fighting against Iran is the most complex war that anybody can witness alive. In fact, this war is so dangerous that it is nearly worse than a world war. Watch and see how difficult and how technical it was for the US to coordinate this particular attack on Iran.
At 0710 local time, a Tomahawk missile erupts from the deck of the USS Spruance and starts screaming towards Iran. Then the booster falls away and a turbofan the size of a coffee table spools to life and the Tomahawk drops to 50 feet above the waterline. 4 seconds later, the next cell fires. Then the next. Then the next. The largest American military operation since the 2003 invasion of Iraq has just started. And Iran was about to find out firsthand why Americans don't have free health care. Within 90 seconds, 8 missiles are gone. 300 miles northwest, 2 other destroyers are running the same drill. 25 Tomahawks now race their radar altimeters along the wave tops, threading between Iranian coastal surveillance stations on routes designed to exploit every known gap in coverage. Flight time to the IRGC naval bases on Iran's southern coast, 40 minutes. Nobody in Iran has any idea they're coming. Somewhere on the Gulf Coast, an Iranian radar operator is probably drinking tea and watching a blank scope. He has about 39 minutes of peace left. But Tomahawks are patient and slow. 550 miles per hour across open water means 40 minutes of exposure where a single coastal radar ping could compromise the entire southern attack. Everything now depends on what crossed the border ahead of them. Already inside Iranian airspace, a wave of Lucas drones is doing something no American weapon has ever done. An Iranian air defense operator at a Bavar 373 battery watches a dozen slow-moving contacts materialize on his scope, pushing inland from the coast at barely 110 knots. He can't tell which ones carry 40-pound warheads aimed at his radar antenna and which ones are just noise. So he does the only thing training allows. He fires. The interceptor streaks off the rail. Over $1 million. It tracks a drone the size of a riding lawnmower, closes at 3 times the speed of sound, and turns it into confetti. But it wasn't a Tomahawk missile. What you just saw blow up was a low-cost unmanned combat attack system, or Lucas drone, operated by Task Force Scorpion Strike. The drones themselves, manufactured by Spectral Works in Mesa, Arizona, reverse-engineered from captured Iranian Shahed 136s, cost $35,000 to produce. And right now, they're the most important aircraft over Iran. He fires again, another $1 million, and again. This is cost exchange warfare at an industrial scale. Every interceptor that chases a drone cheaper than a pickup truck is one fewer in the magazine when 25 Tomahawk cruise missiles show up in 30 minutes. Worse, every time that battery fires, it broadcasts its exact position to the passive sensors on the F-35s now crossing the Iraqi border. That operator is spending his ammunition and painting a target on his own forehead at the same time. But the Iranian air defense commanders celebrating their wins are about to discover something. Those interceptors they just burned through, they were going to need every single one of them in about 25 minutes. Because what crossed the Iraqi border next wasn't a $35,000 drone. 12 F-15I ROMs have been climbing east through Iraqi airspace for 90 minutes, tucked behind a screen of F-35I Adirs running silent in the lead. Electronic warfare suites passively cataloging every radar emission along the Iranian border while broadcasting nothing. The ROMs flew in the electromagnetic shadow, each one hanging heavy with a Rampage missile slung under the fuselage centerline. At 0805 local time, the formation reaches launch altitude over western Iraq. The lead weapons officer in the back seat has been watching his targeting display update for the last hour. Coordinates refined 3 times via Link 16 from an Israeli Oron intelligence aircraft circling over Jordan. He confirms the final solution. The pilot squeezes the release. 2,500 pounds drop away and the ROM jumps, nose pitching up from the sudden weight loss. The fly-by-wire connecting before the pilot's hands can. Below the jet, the solid rocket rocket motor lights. The weapon punches through the sound barrier in seconds, trailing a wide exhaust plume that the pilot can see shrinking in his rearview mirrors as the missile climbs away on a ballistic arc toward Tehran. 11 more ROMs release within seconds of each other. 12 weapons, now accelerating beyond anything Iran can intercept at this phase of flight, arcing east. A Tomahawk from Iraq needs 45 minutes to reach Tehran. These weapons need minutes. That gap is the entire ballgame. 45 minutes gives Iranian radar operators time to detect, track, get authorization, and fire. Minutes gives them time to watch the impact on the news. Spent rocket boosters will tumble into fields across eastern Iraq. Austin analysts will photograph them within hours. But right now, 12 warheads are converging on Pastor Street. The Tomahawks are 10 minutes from the Gulf Coast, and the air defense batteries the Lucas drones have been emptying all morning are running out of things to shoot. At 0810, everything arrives at once. The standoff weapons hit Tehran first. Supersonic warheads arriving with functionally zero warning time. The office of the Supreme Leader on Pasteur Street takes multiple direct hits. An Airbus satellite passing overhead captures the aftermath. Several buildings inside the compound reduced to broken concrete. Smoke columns punching through the morning air. Within minutes, the F-35I Adirs cross the border carrying JDAMs and GBU-39 small-diameter bombs. This is where the F-35 sensor fusion earns every dollar of its price tag. The pilot rolling in on the Ministry of Defense does not flip between radar screens, infrared feeds, and threat displays. The jet's computers merge everything. Its own sensors, Link 16 data from every aircraft in the formation, and satellite imagery into one picture. He sees every Iranian radar still operating within 200 miles, every friendly aircraft, the GPS coordinates of 3 buildings he's about to put a bomb through. One screen, one picture. Like driving with a GPS that shows every traffic camera, speed trap, and pothole all updated in real time. Iran spent 30 years building an integrated air defense network. The F-35 turned it into a highlight reel. He rolls the Adir onto its back at 25,000 feet, pulls the nose down toward the Ministry of Defense compound, and releases a GBU-39 small-diameter bomb. The weapon is only 250 pounds, a quarter the size of a standard JDAM, but its GPS-guided diamond-shaped wings let it glide over 40 miles from release point, and at this range, the circular error is measured in single-digit feet. The SDB punches through the ministry roof and detonates on a delayed fuse inside the 3rd floor, the level where military planning documents live. Across Tehran, the pattern repeats. The Ministry of Intelligence, the Atomic Energy Organization headquarters, Parchin Military Complex, each one selected because it cannot be rebuilt quickly, relocated, or replaced from backup systems. The F-35Is are not hitting random government buildings. They're severing the administrative nervous system that connects Iran's military leaders to its units in the field, its intelligence, and its nuclear bureaucracy. But every minute the F-35Is spend over Tehran, their fuel ticks down and their exposure grows. And from the mountains of western Iran, Iran's most capable air defense system, the one the Lucas drones haven't reached yet, is tracking every one of them. 700 miles south of the smoke over Tehran, the Tomahawks finally reach the coast. The first warhead hits Asaluya IRGC Naval Base at 0812 hours local time. The command building folds inward, fuel storage behind it catches, and a column of black smoke punches straight up through the morning humidity. 4 minutes later, an F-15E Strike Eagle from the 48th Fighter Wing, forward deployed to Jordan from RAF Lakenheath, rolls in from the north at 18,000 feet and 60 degrees of dive angle. The weapons systems officer in the back seat has been staring at this target for the last 40 minutes on his APG-82 radar display, a hardened concrete shelter on the waterfront with a half-moon roof designed to protect the PACAP-class fast attack boats inside. These are the boats that Iran built to swarm the Strait of Hormuz, 50 feet long, armed with machine guns and rocket launchers, designed to sprint out in packs of 100 and overwhelm oil tankers and U.S. ships with volume. Nobody's sprinting anywhere today. He designates the shelter, confirms GPS lock, pickles the GBU-31. 2,000 pounds drop off the centerline station. The JDAM tail kit deploys, 4 grid fins adjusting 10 times per second, steering a slab of tritonal and hardened steel toward a roof that was built to stop shrapnel, not a weapon that hits with the force of a freight car. 30 seconds of free fall. The bomb punches through the concrete arch and detonates inside the shelter. The overpressure has nowhere to go. The walls blow outward. The roof pancakes down onto the boats like a fist closing. The Strike Eagle is already climbing, pulling 5 Gs back to altitude when the Wizzo confirms the hit on the targeting pod footage. Below them, the Strait of Hormuz sits open and quiet. Iran spent 40 years threatening to mine it and choke the global economy. The boats that were supposed to do it are burning under a collapsed roof on the Gulf Coast. And the Navy is far from being done with Iran today. 500 miles east, the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln is making 30 knots into a headwind. On the flight deck, an FA-18E Super Hornet from VFA-41 Black Aces sits on Catapult 1 with both F-414 engines at military power. The catapult officer drops to one knee and touches the deck. The holdback brakes and the shuttle fires. 0 to 165 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. 4 Gs shove the pilot's spine into the ejection seat hard enough to test whether breakfast is staying down. The Black Aces are headed for Chabahar, Iran's only deepwater port on the Gulf of Oman. Tomahawks hit the command post and fuel storage 20 minutes ago. The petroleum reserves are throwing a column of black smoke visible 60 miles out on the strike package's forward-looking infrared. But the submarine piers are still standing, and a Gadir-class midget sub that slips out to sea can carry mines into the Strait of Hormuz on a hull small enough to hide in commercial shipping traffic. That cannot happen. The lead Hornet rolls in on the submarine pier with a GBU-31 JDAM. His wingman from VFA-14 Top Hatters follows 30 seconds later and puts a second 2,000-pounder into the dry dock facility next door. If you can't fuel a submarine, repair it, or load it with mines, it might as well be an expensive lawn ornament. A third pair targets the Charlie 802 anti-ship missile battery on the coastal bluff, the launcher that could threaten tankers and coalition warships in the strait. 2 GBU-39 small-diameter bombs later, and the battery ceases to exist. Across the Gulf Coast, the coordinated Tomahawk then fighter pattern has now hit Asaluya, Chabahar, and Bandar Abbas, home to Iran's Kilo-class submarines and the IRGC Navy's fast attack headquarters. The carrier air wing still has plenty of weapons left on the rails as insurance against any IRGC boat brave enough to sortie. None do. But 500 miles north, the F-35Is over Tehran are running low on fuel, and the air defense system in the Western Mountains is now coming alive. 3 hours into the operation, the weapon Iran was counting on finally gives itself away. After Israel dismantled virtually all of Iran's Russian-supplied S-300 batteries in October of 2024, Iranian engineers did something genuinely impressive. They spent 2 years building a domestic replacement, what the IDF will later designate the SA-65 Mobile Phased Array Radar, roughly 150-kilometer engagement range, the ceiling of what Iran could build under sanctions. They positioned it in the Kermanshah Mountains, guarding the western corridor Israeli jets have been using all morning. An EA-18G Growler from the Lincoln's air wing catches the first emission. The SA-65 search radar has been pulsing intermittently for hours, short bursts, trying to track the F-35Is without staying on long enough to attract a missile. But now, with a second wave of ROMs inbound through the corridor, the battery commander makes the decision every air defense operator dreads. He switches to fire control. Full power, continuous track. He's going for a shot. The moment he transmits, he is finished. The Growler's ALQ-249 next-generation jammer floods his tracking frequency with enough power to turn the display into noise. Simultaneously, an F-35I that's been passively mapping that emission for 90 minutes passes the precise grid coordinates via Link 16. And from a Super Hornet orbiting 40 miles west, an AGM-88 missile drops off the pylon, lights its rocket motor, and accelerates to nearly Mach 3. The missile's multi-mode seeker, GPS, inertial, and multimeter wave homing doesn't care if the radar shuts down. It already knows where it lives. Emission to impact, less than 90 seconds. Iran spent 2 years building a replacement for the air defense system Israel destroyed. Israel and the U.S. destroyed the replacement before lunch. A U.S. official later says, "We have effectively suppressed their air defenses." That sequence rewrites the rest of the day, because the aircraft that have been orbiting over Iraq for 3 hours, waiting for exactly this moment, are finally cleared to push deep. 12 F-22 Raptors get the call. These are the jets from Joint Base Langley, Eustis, Virginia. Call signs Trend 51 through 66. Ferried to Israel via RAF Lakenheath 4 days ago. They've been burning holes in the sky over western Iraq for 3 hours, watching the air defense picture shift from red to amber. Now it's go time. The lead Raptor pilot pushes both throttles to military power and banks east into Iranian airspace. His APG-77 radar is painting everything within 120 25 miles, tracking contacts the size of a golf ball, while his own jet returns a radar signature roughly the size of a marble. An Iranian fighter would need to be within 15 miles to register anything at all. At 15 miles, his AMRAAMs are already off the rail. It's the radar equivalent of being invisible until you're already standing in someone's living room. But the Raptors aren't here to shoot down fighters. They're here to listen. The F-22's AN/ALR-94 is the most effective electronic warfare suite ever mounted onto a fighter. Over 30 antennas embedded across the wings, fuselage, and tail, each one tuned to a different slice of the electromagnetic spectrum. As the Raptor cruises over central Iran, the system is quietly cataloging every electronic emission on the ground below. A mobile SAM battery that relocated during the morning chaos and thinks it's hidden, the AL-94 has already geolocated it from its search radar. An IRGC command post communicating on a frequency it thinks is secure, logged, coordinates tagged, forwarded via Link 16 to an F-15E orbiting 60 miles behind. The Raptor pilot never fires a shot. He doesn't need to. Every piece of data his jet collects makes the next striker's job easier. The Iranian Air Force, maybe 40 operational MiG-29s, a handful of surviving F-14 Tomcats, and some aging Phantoms that were already old when Top Gun came out, stays on the ground. Smart choice. But on the ground in western Iran, a different fight is reaching its climax. While the Raptors catalog central Iran and the Navy dismantles the Gulf Coast, the most desperate contest of the day is playing out in the mountains of Kermanshah, Loristan, and Khuzestan. 30 F-15I ROMs loaded with Rafael Spice glide bombs and Delilah cruise missiles have banned out across 3 provinces hunting TELs, transporter erector launchers, the heavy trucks that carry, raise, and fire ballistic missiles capable of reaching Israeli cities. The math is brutal. An IRGC missile crew can drive a Shahab 3 out of a hardened mountain tunnel, set up in a valley, connect fuel lines, erect the missile on the rail, and launch in under 30 minutes. Then they drive the empty TEL back underground before the next satellite pass. The IDF has spent months building targeting packages from signals intelligence, satellite imagery, and reportedly human sources inside the IRGC itself. Every one of those sources is earning their paycheck this morning. Finding a missile launcher in the mountains of western Iran is like finding a specific food truck in New York City, except this food truck is trying to hit Tel Aviv and moves every 20 minutes. IDF drone footage released hours later captures the moment that defines the day. An Iranian TEL caught mid-sequence in a narrow valley, grainy infrared. The missile is already vertical on the launcher, probably a Shahab 3 variant. Ground crew visible at the base, connecting the last fuel umbilicals. The weapons officer on the orbiting ROM has the crosshairs centered on the launcher rail, but he holds. If he releases now, the Spice Bomb's last radius catches the TEL, but the missile could topple clear. Damaged, not destroyed. He needs the fuel lines connected. He needs the crew bunched at the base. He needs everything in one place. 10 seconds. 15. The ground crew steps back from the umbilical connection point. He pickles. The Rafael Spice glide bomb drops off the pylon and extends its wings. GPS and electro-optical guidance steering it down the valley on a trajectory calculated to impact the launcher base at a shallow angle, maximizing the blast footprint across the TEL and the missile simultaneously. 12 seconds of guided flight. The warhead detonates at the junction of the launcher rail and the truck chassis. The Shahab 3's fuel tank ruptures and 3 tons of liquid propellant ignite in a secondary fireball that whites out the infrared camera for a full 2 seconds. When the image returns, the valley floor is scorched bare. The TEL is scrap. But they can't catch them all. Iran has hundreds of TELs dispersed throughout the western mountains. Some are in tunnels with approaches already collapsed. Some are decoys, and some, the crews that fuel fast enough, erect before the next drone pass and fire before a ROM arrives. Those missiles are already arcing toward Israeli cities. Some Iranian counterfire is going to get through, and the only way to limit how much is to destroy Iran's largest conventional weapons stockpile before it launches. With the Raptors feeding targeting data to every aircraft in theater and Iranian air defenses functionally gone, the coalition scales to full capacity. Israel's next wave, 30 more fighter jets, fans out across Isfahan, Bushehr, Avaz, and surrounding areas. 60 precision munitions, targets the opening strikes couldn't reach, ballistic missile warehouses, air defense production lines, and a drone regiment headquarters, and the Shaheed depots. Warehouse complexes and hardened hangars packed with Shahed 136 one-way attack drones, fueled, armed, pre-programmed with coordinates for Israeli cities and American bases stacked in launch racks waiting for the order. The same drones the IRGC was planning to launch in swarms of hundreds as part of their retaliation this afternoon. JDAMs and smaller diameter bombs walked through depot after depot across 3 provinces. 950 drones gone. Simultaneously, U.S. strikes hammer IRGC command and control infrastructure deeper inland, underground bunkers, communications relays, fiber optic nodes. The targeting logic is simple. Sever the communications first, and commanders can't coordinate even if they want to. Iran's internet drops to 4% of normal, confirmed by NetBlocks. However, a hacked Iranian prayer app is still able to push a simple message through to millions of phones. Help has arrived. If you